Kaviraj. Raghunath Das' strict regulative principles were exactly like lines on a stone. Now, what does that mean? He was on a platform of prema bhakti. He's in the topmost stages of love of God. It wasn't a practice stage, it was a perfection stage. Although he was on the stage of perfection, he very strictly observed standards as if he was not a perfectly realized person, but a practitioner. So he had certain practices. Here's an example. Every day when he lived at Radhakund for those number of years, 46 years, every day he would chant 64 rounds. Every day he'd pay obeisances to deities, their little temples surrounding Radhakund and Shamakund, and he'd go to each temple, offer his obeisances, and then go to the next temple and offer obeisances. And in the course of that travel here and there around Radhakund, he would see devotees and he'd offer his obeisances to devotees, and he kept track. Most of us keep track of the rounds that we chant daily. And because he was so old, when he got to be so old, they'd have to pick him up because he couldn't get up so easily. And they'd say to him, Raghunath, you don't need to do this. You're on this spontaneous prema bhakti platform. And he'd smile and say, yes, yes. And he'd continue offering obeisances because his regular principles were exactly like lines on a stone. Here's a nice description Prabhupada is narrating in Bombay, in his room. Raghunath Das Goswami showed how to live in Radhakund. He was circumambulating Radhakund, falling down, making a mark. That is Radhakund Vasi. Not only by counting the holy names, but offering obeisances so many hundreds of times. So much vairagya he showed. He can take bath in Radhakund. First of all, do this like Raghunath Das Goswami. In other words, we see here in this painting, or excuse me, photograph, there's a couple, and the man's dhoti is kind of sullied because he's paying obeisances by holding a rock in his hand, and then he would reach as far as his arm would reach and place the rock, and then stand and go to where the rock was sitting, and put his feet there, and then pay full obeisances, and this way go around, called Dandavat's Parikrama, around Radhakund. And devotees, Brijbasis, like to do that. And he did this on a regular basis, as Brijbasis would do, and in that mood of humility, he would take his bath in Radhakund. So Prabhupada is advising his followers in 1976, become qualified like Raghunath before you bathe in Radhakund. Now, a little bit about his childhood. Raghunath Das Goswami had a Diksha Guru, and his Diksha Guru is pictured here. Yadunandana Acharya. We find this in Antya-lila chapter 6. What I'm narrating to you, the scriptural reference for it is what I just said, Antya-lila chapter 6. So, Yadunandana Acharya was his Diksha Guru. But this Yadunandana Acharya, he also received instructions and had intimate relationship with Advaita Acharya in Shantipur. And he, Yadunanda Acharya, received Diksha from Vasudev Datta. Now, if you're not familiar with Chaitanya Charitamrita, these names don't mean too much to you. But Vasudev Datta was so intimate with Lord Chaitanya, it's described right in Chaitanya Charitamrita that several times Lord Chaitanya would say again and again about Vasudev Dutt. I am Vasudev Dutt's man. He can do with me whatever he likes. I am Vasudev Dutt's man. So Lord Chaitanya, looked up to Vasudev Datta. Now he's a Vaishnav, Vasudev Datta, but a very exalted Vaishnav. And Yadunandana Acharya received Diksha from Vasudev Datta. And Raghunath Das received Diksha from him, from Yadunandana Acharya. And in addition, this Yadunandana Acharya was the family guru of the Majumdar family. His parents had a family guru, that's Yadunandana Acharya. So one time, long ago, early in his childhood, Haridas Thakur was visiting, because he was a great saintly person. He was visiting in the area where the Majumdars lived, so he was invited by the Majumdars to stay with us for some days. So he accepted that arrangement, Haridas, and while staying with the Majumdar family, Haridas wanted to make sure that every day Raghunath Das received Haridas Thakur's prasad. And it is said that it's from that mercy of Haridas, the mercy of a Vaishnav, Haridas Thakur, that later he got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, starting with Raghunath Das, starting with Haridas Thakur. So there was a second person who was also a disciple of Yadunandana Acharya. His name was Balaram Acharya, and the place of residence of the Majumdar family was Chandpur. And these two Vaishnava Acharyas, they stayed also in Chandpur, not with the family, but they stayed in the same village. And here's a nice photograph of a murti of Haridas Thakur. So mercy from Haridas Thakur went to Raghunath Das when he was just a little boy. Some time passed, and Raghunath Das got the first association with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just after Lord Chaitanya accepted sannyas. So the age of Lord Chaitanya was around 24, and Raghunath Das was a much younger boy. But when he took sannyas, then there was a plan, a kind of intrigue, to have Lord Chaitanya's mother Sachi, meet with Lord Chaitanya after his taking sannyas, and it was arranged in Shantipur. I mean, there's some detail. Here's the detail, a little bit. Lord Chaitanya wanted to go to Vrindavan. However, by trick, Lord Nityananda said this way to Vrindavan, and it was the way to get to Shantipur, to take association of Advaita Acharya. And so, as you probably know, this coming Sunday is Advaita Acharya's appearance day. So Lord Chaitanya went, after taking sannyas, to Shantipur, and while he was there in Shantipur, the Majumdar family, because they had a close relationship, or Yadunandana Acharya had a very, very close relationship with Advaita Acharya, they went to Shantipur. The whole Majumdar family went to Shantipur. And it was in this circumstance that Raghunath Das first met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now remember, he has no affinity for material enjoyment. And here's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's the remnants of Haridas Thakur he had already received, and some affection and appreciation for Lord Chaitanya. Now they're meeting. And mercy of the Mahaprasadam of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the little boy, as long for every day, for the period of time that Lord Chaitanya remained in Shantipur. And after some time, Mahaprabhu left. And there's Raghunath Das meditating upon this wonderful saintly person that I just met. Now, fast forward a little bit. He's now 19 years old. And for the second time, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu once again in Shantipur. And this happened after Lord Chaitanya, for some time, was residing in Puri. And he, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was receiving letters from Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami in Ramakeli. And so he had a plan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a plan to go to Vrindavan, but he made a little detour. And some those of you that know geography a little bit, well, if you want to go from Jagannath Puri, which is on the east coast of India, and go to Vrindavan, which is in the northwest, you don't go due north. It's way west, northwest. But he went due north and ended up in the place where Natashala, where he met Chaitanya, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. So when returning from after meeting after meeting Sanatana Goswami and Raghunath Das, he went again to Shantipur, and again the Majumdar family went to visit Lord Chaitanya because of their relationship through Yadunandan Acharya. And when Raghunath Das, for the second time, met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to go with him. And he begged him, like very enthusiastic way. And Mahaprabhu gave him the following advice. Nice advice. Calm yourself. Return home. Don't be foolish. It takes time to cross the ocean of material suffering. Don't make a show of markata vairagya or monkey renunciation simply for other people's benefit. Enjoy the world in a moderate way without attachment. Be fixed on Krishna internally while externally dealing with the world in the appropriate fashion. It will not be long before Krishna delivers you. Nice words. And so he's 19 years old, wanting to be in Mahaprabhu's association, but he heard his instructions. So he went back home. And when he went back home, he started behaving more normal instead of like, I want out of here. So here was a situation which is a very important situation. The essence, try to follow the detail, but the essence is he demonstrated to his family members, his father and his uncle and others, that he was very capable of engaging himself in worldly affairs. He wasn't escaping worldly affairs because he was incompetent. He was quite competent, more than competent, very expert, but not interested at all. So back again, the Majumdar family were very wealthy. Where did their wealth come from? During this period of time, much of India, including where their Majumdar family resided, there was a Muslim ruler, like a king, and Qazi was the name of the ruler, and the ruler was something like he had his palace and had his place, and then he designated certain areas that are in his kingdom to other persons to be landholders. And then the landholders had the responsibility of producing from the land and then giving taxes to the king, because he owned the land. I mean, theoretically, Krishna owns the land, but the king owned the land, and he gave responsibility to oversee certain tracts of land to the landholder. And then there was a system that the landholder had to pay taxes to the king. And the landholder then had people living in his vicinity, and he would receive taxes from them, and the result would go to the king or to the zamindar. So you see on the screen, there's this nice photograph or painting of a Muslim chaduri. And chaduri means tax collector. That's what it's a shudra position in the service of the king or the ruler. And he collected the taxes. And the deal was he would keep a certain percentage, like 1/4 of all that he collected, he would keep and give the balance to the king. So it's a system. I'm going to read, but the reading is for the purpose of capturing the details carefully, because it shows the purpose. One more time, Raghunath Das was very capable, more than capable. He was expert. So here's the Antilula, chapter 6, text 17. There was a Muslim official collecting the taxes of Shaptagram. So when there was a time during this foreign rule or Muslim rule, the government, the person in power, appointed a tax collector. That's this fellow on the screen here, the Chaduri. And he would collect taxes from the local zamindar, that's the landholder. He would keep 1/4 of the collection himself as his profit, and the balance would go to the treasury of the government. Now, somehow or another, doesn't say how, his father and uncle, his father's name was Govardhan Majumdar, and his uncle, the brother of Govardhan, was Hiranya Majumdar. So Hiranya made an arrangement with the government that he would collect the taxes, kind of like cut out the tax collector Chaduri. And as a result, the Chaduri lost his post, at least for their tract of land. And that's how they became wealthy, the 1/4 of all the taxes collected. So the Chaduri had, a chip on his shoulder. He wanted to get back. So the tax collector Chaduri found out that Hiranya, his uncle, was cheating. He would collect 2 million gold coins, but not give 1,500,000 to the king. He would take a cut out of what was supposed to go to the king. 300,000 coins he pocketed extra. He was cheating the king or cheating the government. And the Chaduri came to know. After sending a confidential account to the government treasury, the Chaduri brought the minister in charge. The Chaduri came wanting to arrest Hiranya, but Hiranya had left home. Therefore, the Chaduri arrested Raghunath, put him in jail. So the 19-year-old Raghunath is in jail for something that his father did, or uncle. Every day, the Muslim would chastise Raghunath Das, telling him, "Bring your father and his elder brother, otherwise you will be punished." The Chaduri wanted to beat him, but as soon as he saw Raghunath's face, his mind changed, and he could not beat him. Indeed, the Chaduri was afraid of Raghunath Das because Raghunath Das belonged to the Kayasta community. So it's an elevated status without all the details of the nomenclature. The Chaduri is the Shudra by caste, by his occupation. And the Majumdar family were in a higher caste, Kayasta caste. And so he didn't feel right. He couldn't beat him, although he's a Muslim. He was respectful to the higher order of society. So he just verbally chastised him again and again, but he was afraid to beat him. While this was going on, Raghunath Das thought of a tricky method to escape. Thus, he humbly submitted this plea at the feet of the Muslim Chaduri. So listen, this is the cleverness, the worldly cleverness that Raghunath Das had no attraction for, but he knew how to do it. He wasn't just a useless person. He was just detached. My dear sir, my father and his elder brother are your brothers. All brothers always fight about something. Sometimes brothers fight amongst themselves, and sometimes they have very friendly dealings. There is no certainty when such changes will take place. Thus, I am sure that although today you are fighting, tomorrow you three brothers will be sitting together in peace. Just as I am my father's son, I am also yours. I am your dependent, and you are my maintainer. For a maintainer to punish the person he maintains is not good. You are expert in all the scriptures. Indeed, you are like a living saint. When the Muslim heard Raghunath Das's appealing voice, his heart softened. He began to cry, and tears glided down his beard. So it's not just words, it's the mood, the culture, and the everything in the character of Raghunath Das. He started to cry. He told Raghunath, "You are my son from this day on. Today, by some means, I shall get you released." After informing the minister, the Chaduri released Raghunath Das and then began to speak to him with great affection. Your father's elder brother is less intelligent. He enjoys 800,000 coins, but since I am also a shareholder, he should give some portion of it to me. Now you go arrange a meeting between me and your uncle. Let him do whatever he thinks is best. I shall completely be dependent upon his decision. Raghunath Das arranged a meeting between his uncle and the Chaduri. The matter was settled and everything was peaceful. Diplomacy is not everybody's gift, but Raghunath Das, having no interest in it, he was somehow able to do it anyways. Then some time passed, and the efforts that Raghunath Das was making to escape started escalating again. His restlessness returned, and he tried running away, and his father would find out where he went and send some guards and bring him back. Eventually, the wife of his father, Govardhan Majumdar, said, "Time up." And the father replied, "He has as much wealth as Indra, the king of gods, and his wife is as beautiful as the heavenly courtesans. If these things have not been able to capture his spirit, then how will mere ropes be able to do so? The father who gives life to a child cannot interfere with the efforts of his previous lives' actions. Chaitanya Chandra has given his blessings to this boy. Who can keep prisoner one who has been made mad by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?" Now remember, the Majumdar family, they're Vaishnavas. They have a Vaishnava guru, and they understand Lord Chaitanya is also an exalted sannyasi Vaishnava, and our son wants to be with him. We don't want it. We want him to take our wealth and to be enjoy luxurious life, but it's too late. He has gotten the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The very next day, so now here comes another very interesting chapter of the life of Raghunath Das. Remember his age, he's 1920-ish. Married, beautiful wife, this and that, fantastic wealth, everything you might want in the worldly sense. The next day, he found out that Lord Nityananda was visiting not far away in a place called Panihati. And the place where he was visiting was the home of Raghava Pandit. Now, those who have read Chaitanya Charitamrita, the name Raghava Pandit means something to you. Those of you that have not read Chaitanya Charitamrita, it doesn't mean anything to you. But he was a very dear associate, particularly of Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Nityananda paid him a visit, and they were having a big Sankirtan festival in Panihati. And so Raghunath decided he would go. He thought carefully. I've tried this and I've tried that, tried the other thing. Nothing's been successful. Without the mercy of Lord Nityananda, I can't get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So somehow I have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda. But he was shy, and so when he went, he kept a distance. Lord Nityananda, being omniscient, he knew and he saw, and so he called from a distance. Like a thief, you don't come near me, but simply you try to run away. Now I have caught you. I shall punish you. I want you to feed all my followers chipped rice and yogurt. Sponsor the Sunday feast. Punishment. It's not punishment. So Raghunath Das, being wealthy, he got to work. He got not only chipped rice with yogurt, but chipped rice with condensed milk. And there's details and long explanation of the water came right from the Ganges, and they soaked the chipped rice, and then they mixed the chipped rice with condensed milk and condensed rice with yogurt in two different preparations. They put them all in pots, clay pots, and started distributing to all the Vaishnavas who had just finished their big Sankirtan festival. And as they were having this big activity of feeding all the Vaishnavas, much to everyone's surprise, Lord Chaitanya came, because it is said in the scriptures that Lord Chaitanya would always appear in 5 places, and one of them was Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Nityananda was dance. So here they are by the side of the Ganges. You see the clay pots with the chipped rice with yogurt and condensed milk, and they're dancing and dancing and dancing. And this painting shows the lords would then take a morsel from each pot and then feed one another. So all this was going on right in the presence of Raghunath Das Goswami and all the Vaishnavas. And he's like shy, but he wants Lord Chaitanya's mercy. And so through Raghava Pandit, because he was too shy to speak directly, he asked Raghava Pandit to make a request of Lord Nityananda. What's that? Please ask Lord Chaitanya to give his mercy so I can get his association. And so this painting shows he's directly coming before him, but it was Raghava Pandit that did so and communicated this to Lord Nityananda. And here's Lord Nityananda's response, or here's his words. I am the lowest of men, the most sinful, fallen, and condemned. Here's this question again about humility, right? Nevertheless, I desire to attain shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like a dwarf who wants to catch the moon. I've tried my best many times, but I've never been successful. No one can attain the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu without your mercy, Lord Nityananda. Although I am unfit and greatly afraid to submit this plea, please be especially merciful toward me by granting me shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now this was not his words, because it was passed on through Raghava Pandit. And in this nice painting, it shows Lord Nityananda's response. He put his foot on Raghunath Das's head, right in the presence of all the Vaishnavas, and he's, is mercifully giving his mercy. Lord, Lord Sringade placed his palm or paw on the head of Prahlad, and here's Nityananda putting his foot on the head of Raghunath Das. And then he said, Raghunath Das emotionally asked Nityananda through Raghava Pandit how he could possibly gain freedom from material entanglements and obtain the association of Mahaprabhu. The material entanglements meant money and his wife. Fabulous wealth. And, with that, their residence and all that paraphernalia and all that stuff. So he wants freedom from that. Nityananda, the ocean of mercy, placed his foot on Raghunath's head, and here's what he said. You arranged this feast on the banks of the river, and Mahaprabhu, very merciful to you, came here himself to enjoy it. He blessed you by accepting the offering of chipped rice and yogurt. Then, after watching the devotees dancing, he took prasad in the evening. Lord Gauranga came here just to deliver you, and now he has removed any impediments which remained. He will turn you over to Swarup Damodar. This is making a forecast. He hasn't gone to Puri yet, but he's telling what's going to happen when you get to Puri. Lord Chaitanya put Raghunath Das Goswami in the care of Swarup Damodar, making you his, Swarup Damodar's, confidential servant. He will keep you by his side. Go home now and forget your worries. You'll soon be able to go to the Lord without any difficulties. Very special. And so he went home. And when he went home, he made a few decisions. One of those few decisions was he wasn't going to sleep in the house anymore. He slept outside the house. And it's what's called a mandap. It's like, like a canopy. And that's where he took rest every night. Not with his wife, but in outdoors in the mandap. So what happened after some few days, there was a difficulty. And the difficulty was Yadunanda Acharya, his guru, came to wake up Raghunath Das Goswami at 2 a.m. because there was a pujari that kind of walked off the job and there wasn't a replacement for that particular morning. And Yadunanda Acharya knew the importance of maintaining regulation in deity worship. So he went to Raghunath Das, who's expert. Please help me. So the two, Raghunath Das and Yadunanda Acharya, in the early morning, the guards weren't up because they were still asleep, and they went together to go to the place where this pujari was, to convince the pujari to do his service that morning, at least until they got some replacement. So as they're walking and walking and walking, Raghunath Das got a bright idea. He told a lie. And the lie was, Yadunanda Acharya, you don't worry, I'll take care of this. You can go back and take rest. I'll get the pujari to come and take care of the deity. So Yadunanda Acharya went back to take rest. And Raghunath Das understood, now's my chance. The guards are asleep, no one's looking. And he then headed for Jagannath Puri. The details are, he didn't walk on a road because that had what had happened before. Then his father sent guards and they found him on the road. So he didn't go through the road. He went through a jungle. Well, there's no path in the jungle. He just, he knew what direction to go, and he went in the direction. And he went all night long and all day long and into the next evening. and he was exhausted at the end of the day. So when Milkman, a cowherd fellow, saw him scrawny and, famished, and he brought him some milk. Said, "You look like you need some milk." So he gave him, and he took rest that night. And then that was the first, and then 11 days later, he ended up in Puri. So when he went to Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya knew who he was. He knew the whole situation. And so he accepted him. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit of time, not too much, on uh, this word trickery. Now, for Vaishyas, there's one kind of trickery. They say, serve for you and make no profit. That's not true. They can't survive without profit, but they'll say that. Or sometimes Brahmanas may be a little deceptive. Now, a true Brahmana isn't at all, but sometimes Brahmanas are a little deceptive. And then a Vaishnava is true to Krishna, but some cases Vaishnavas do trickery also. We're going to hear some examples. And then there's Shuddha Bhaktas. And we're going to hear something about Shuddha Bhaktas doing some trickery. And then there's eternal associates of Krishna in Braja. They certainly do trickery. But, the kind of trickery and the purpose for which the trickery is done is different in each case. So here's a nice example. Well, before the example, if someone that becomes a Shuddha Bhakta, there's only one thing that they're interested in. And that one thing that they're interested in is that Krishna should be pleased. That's it. So they may do something so that Krishna is pleased. And by external standards, it's something not to be done. But if it's pleasing to Krishna, then they do it because it's pleasing to Krishna, because that's their Shuddha Bhakti position. They follow the vidhis of bhakti, unless and until there's a purpose to serve Krishna, and they serve like Arjuna. Killing is not to be done. But on the order of Krishna, the killing is to be done. Not just killing, but his teacher and his grandfather, etc. So here's a nice example, a transcendental example. In the Sri Vaishnava tradition, there's there alvars. Most of you know the alvars. So one of them is Tirumangai Alvar. And he traveled together with some associates, and those associates have had particular skills. In fact, they were not only associates, they were disciples. And they eventually became a gang of robbers. The first disciple, Tarka Chadumani, he had this way of engaging people in discussion and arguments. They completely lost track of time and space. It was very engaging. His other disciple, Dvara Unmochaka, he could know how to open doors, particularly treasury doors. And then he had a third disciple, Chaya Graha. And by stepping on someone's shadow, they could be made motionless. And the fourth disciple, he was able to enter palaces surrounded by deep moats and plundered wealth. So these four got together. What happened was, when he got to Sri Rangam, there was no temple. So he went to the pious people and asked them for donation to help build the temple. And there was no donations to build the temple. So they decided to do it this other way. And they built a nice temple. Yeah. One who could walk on water. Jalo Parichara. Jalo Parichara, he could walk on water. So this is what they built. And over on the upper left side, that's the main temple. And here's a close-up of the main temple, nicely painted in different colors. And here's some of the architecture inside, carvings. And so to build a temple like this today, forget it. They got the artisans and the cost and so forth and so on. They could build something nice, but unprecedented. So they had enormous wealth, and they built this temple with halls and carvings and architecture, and beautiful place, amazing place. Now it's like, like a museum, but fantastic. And then in transcendental dealings, there's a nice discussion in one of the books of our acharyas about Radharani stealing Krishna's flute. That's a no-no. There's details. The story is long, and time doesn't permit the long story. But it's narrated in part by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in one of his writings, Krishna Bhavanamrita. And it goes like this, as is described in Padyavali. One day, Radha told Krishna, "You are the very treasure of my existence, but your flute has robbed us of all our virtues, our chastity, our religiosity, and our observance of social etiquette. Indeed, this Murali has ruined our lives. If I ever get the chance, I'll grab that flute and throw it in the Jamuna, and you'll never see it again." Always remembering Radharani's threat, Krishna would hide the flute under his cloth when he would fall asleep in a kunj. But one time, Radha got her chance. She approached Madhava stealthily like a cat, taking care that her ankle bells did not tinkle. She slid her golden bangles up her arms lest they jangle, and kept her eyes on his in fear that he might wake up. She slyly stole the flute from his lap. Thief. Transcendental trickery. And then there's a long description of how Krishna got his flute back. It's a long, nice description. Here's a painting of Radharani stealing the flute with the other gopis looking, and there are a few such stories, including at Surya Kund, which I don't have time to narrate. So when Raghunath Das reached Puri, he gave some instructions. Mahaprabhu gave instructions and placed Raghunath in the care of Swarup Damodar, because at that time there were several Raghunaths. He was then called the Raghu of Swarup. Here's instruction, as he had given earlier instruction. Do not listen to gossip, nor engage in gossip yourself. Do not eat very palatable food, no problem for Raghunath Das. Nor should you dress very nicely, also no problem. Always chant the holy name of Lord Krishna without any expectation of honor. Sound familiar? Shikshastika. Offering all respect to others, mentally render service to Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. So internalize your bhakti. Same message. Internalize your bhakti, and externally you do these things and avoid those things. Then in course of time, there was another sannyasi that resided in Jagannath Puri. Shankarananda Saraswati was his name. And when he went to Vrindavan, he brought back from Vrindavan what you see on the screen here. Govardhan Shila, very small, and gunja berries. Gunja berries are these, mainly they're red, but they're multicolored. And on a string, he gave them to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a gift. And for 3 years, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you've heard the description probably, he worshipped the Govardhan Shila in a very unconventional way. He held to his heart, he held to his eyes, he would cry profusely with his thumb, he would rub the Shila day and night, because he was taking this mood of Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna, and Govardhan representing or being non-different from Krishna, as we know from the Govardhan Lila. The Govardhan Hill is Krishna. He worshipped the Shila for 3 years in this way, and then as a gift, he gave the Shila to Raghunath Das Goswami. When this happened, Raghunath Das understood transcendentally, he's giving me residence at Govardhan Hill. And when he gave the Gunja berries, he's giving me the mercy of Radharani. So he kept those 2 items for the rest of his life. And here's a nice verse by Raghunath Das Goswami, his Ashtaka, or excuse me, Dashaka, 10 verses glorifying Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Vasa Prarthana Dashakam. Imbued with friendly rasa for Radha and Krishna, along with their friends, you are an unparalleled giver of happiness to the groups of men, animals, birds who take shelter of you. Oh, Govardhan! Embracing me and considering me as one of your own, please give me permanent residence near you. So he made his residence at Radhakund, at Govardhan Hill. Some number of years, he remained, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remained in Puri and then left this world. And when he left this world, the method of leaving the world was he entered the body of Gopinath. He entered the knee of Gopinath and disappeared from this world. When he disappeared from this world, Raghunath Das was smashed because Lord Chaitanya was literally his life. And he left. He didn't even leave a goodbye letter. He just left. And so he, Raghunath, became very, very sorrowful and decided he would also give up his life. But because Lord Chaitanya had given him residence at Vrindavan, at Govardhan, he went to Vrindavan to take shelter of Rupa and Raghunath, who he had met, but because they had visited Lord Chaitanya in Puri, but he didn't have their association. He had Lord Chaitanya's association. So when he went to Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami understood very easily his mood. He's devastated. And when he understood his intention, he then instructed Raghunath Das, you can't do this. Here's why. We've been serving Lord Chaitanya in separation. You've been with him for all these years. And therefore, you know in detail, day by day, his activities and his teachings and his mood and all these nice things. And in addition, you've heard from Swarup Damodar, all these things. So here's an instruction from me to you. You stay by the side of Radhakund, and every day, for 3 to 4 hours every day, you recite what you've heard from Raghunath, from Swarup Damodar, and the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So that's what he did. He didn't give up his life, and for all those number of years, that was his place of residence. And for the rest of his life. And in the audience, hearing from Raghunath Das Goswami was several persons, but one of them was Krishnadas Kaviraj. And Krishnadas Kaviraj, before he went to Vrindavan, he was a poet. He was a kavi, a very learned person, and he was very good at writing. So as he got very old, Krishnadas Kaviraj was nearly 100 years of age. The Brijvasis petitioned him, please write. You have the skill, you have the ability. You know so much about, because he had never been in Lord Chaitanya's association, but Raghunath had, and he heard from Raghunath for 45 years, every day. So he was filled up with Lord Chaitanya. And in addition to what Raghunath Das heard, Raghunath Das had a copy of the diary of Swarup Damodar. And that diary was then given to Krishnadas Kaviraj. So he had, a map, a mind map, and of Swarup Damodar, and all the teachings from Raghunath. And I was that on that basis he wrote Chaitanya Charitamrita. So our very simple understanding of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's both Krishna and the devotee of Krishna at the same time. Same way, the Govardhan Shila is Krishna also. It's Hari Das and Hari Dev. And he had that affinity. He had that affinity for Lord Chaitanya, and he had that affinity for Govardhan. And no, in a deep way, not a superficial way, like we have something of an understanding of Govardhan being non different than Krishna. We hear the pastime at least annually at Govardhan Puja. But it's very, very, very special. And he had profound realization because of his purity. In course of time, Raghunath Das, became the object of affection of a very wealthy man. And the very wealthy man wanted to do some service with his wealth. So Raghunath, he's a renunciate. His family had enormous wealth, but here's a man that sees him in a spiritual way, not just attachment on the bodily platform. So he said, "I don't need anything, but you have all your wealth. You can build kund for Radha." So what's the number of years, 12 years or some number of years, they completely empty out Radha Kund and take out all the mud, and they use the mud to make the mud tilak that is sold in the shops and so forth. And it's at many, 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 many steps down, 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 down. It's a very detailed excavation. The place is in Vrij language. It's Arit. It's a place where Rishtasura was killed. There's a connection of the killing of Rishtasura and the Krishna's taking bath in this place during Krishna's pastime. So that's became Radhakund and Shamakund. Here are the deities that Raghunath Das worshipped while he was residing at Radhakund, along with the 99 other deities that he would regularly worship. Here's the 3 primary books that he wrote. Stava Vali, that's just many prayers. And this was Vraja Vilas Stava. We touched on this a little bit earlier. He wrote a book, Dana Charita, and it was an inspiration from a book that Rupa Goswami had written, a pastime where Krishna is taking dan or tax from the gopis as they're carrying butter and dairy products to the marketplace, and Krishna stops them. So he had similar but different pastime. The location is different, but the pastime is quite similar. And then the loving exchange between Krishna and the gopis. And then the pearl pastime. So here's a cover of Stavavali. And here's an excerpt from Stavavali. "Oh, restless-eyed girl, your lake is the eternal home of you and your beloved. My residence is there. There I stay." Very simple, but it's bouquet of lamentations. There's Vilapa Kushamanjali, bouquet of lamentations, prayers to Srimati Radharani, and of course paintings to go along with the nice book. And there you see up on the hill, that's Varsana, the home of Srimati Radharani. And it's a topic unto itself, Mukta Charita, or conventionally known as the Pearl Pastimes, Pearl Pastime or Pearl Story by Raghunath Das Goswami. And I'm not going to narrate it, but it's very, very wonderful text. Very simple, but it's loving exchanges between Radha and Krishna. And here's a nice photograph of his Govardhan Vasa. He wants residence or Vasa at Govardhan Hill. That was what he understood Lord Chaitanya wanted for him or was gifting to him, and he has that affinity. Now, this is a newer audience, and we've been going for 1 hour and 17 minutes. And I think it'd be a nice time to pause. No, I don't know. For those of you that are on the newer side, if this was too much for you, but we did it anyways. And I'm now going to invite to see if there's some questions. I see a lot of messages in the chat box. Who's going to monitor this?
Maharaj, I have already taken care of it. Thank you.
Okay, you please, there, you facilitate.
Sure, Maharaj. Thank you. So, are there any questions? Please go ahead and ask at this time. You can unmute yourself.
How about raise their hand?
Yes.
Yeah, besides just unmute, because there'll be cacophony of sound.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you,
Or
Maharaj.
send a message to the chat box and you can read through the chat box.
Yes. So, two options. You can raise your hand or send a message in the chat box. I'll read the question and Maharaj can answer. Thank you.
Okay, we have one question over here.
Go ahead. Thank you.
This is from a participant in the Zoom call. It's from Prem Pallavi Mataji. Her question is, I appreciate how your classes are mostly visual and it keeps our eyes and ears hooked. I have two questions. One, the glories or his renunciation of Raghunath Das Goswami seems far-fetched for me. How can I establish my relationship with our Prayojana Acharya?
Follow in the footsteps, but don't imitate. Minimize according to your, what you can maintain reasonably, and then aspire as you go forward in time to reduce that minimum, let the minimum become less and less and less. That's how you can follow. Now, supposing, as you said, you don't have that capacity, it's far, far, far away. That's okay. Go, see the direction. You got your binoculars out or telescope or something, and you can see far away, and you move in that direction. That means, I'll share this with you. A while ago, last week, I received a letter from a young devotee, a college student, and they described necessary. So she decided, because it was winter break, to just clean up the clutter. And she just kept the stuff that she needed, but then she realized there's so much not needed stuff. And then she figured out a way to give the not needed stuff to some charitable purpose or something like that. And then be very careful going forward in time to not bring stuff back home unless it was really needed stuff. And needed stuff, fine. But not needed stuff, don't bring it home. And that's a way this, youth is able to follow college kids. So yeah, what your situation is what your situation is. But you find some way that you can look around and see, do I really need these things? Is there any of these things that's not needed? And if it's not needed, find another use for it to someone that may feel it to be needed and give it to them. So that you simplify and simplify and simplify and simplify. In all respects, paraphernalia and the what you're accustomed to eating what you need and not more than what you need. And then whatever that is, you maintain that. And then after some time, you consider, is this really what I need now? No. Supposing you get to be like me, you become a senior citizen, and your requirements are less. Eating requirement. People fault me. You didn't need anything. I certainly ate something. Less, but don't say nothing. So nature will take its course for all of us anyways, but what are you going to take with you? So not much. Your spirit soul will go with you, and that's about it. So you work towards the direction of streamlining and minimizing and simplifying. That's my advice. Somebody else would like to raise a question? You have part 2. Okay.
Question number 2 is, just like there is a lineage of Rupa Goswami, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, are there followers or lineage for Raghunath Das Goswami as well?
Well, not there were certainly admirers, but in the case of Gopal Bhatta, he actually gave Diksha, and he had there's detail without going into the details of his life. Yes, there was some lineage following him, but not Raghunath Das as far as I know. Followers and persons who were followers feeling some affinity for him, but not in a diksha kind of capacity, maybe more in a shiksha kind of capacity, and then understanding his mood and adopting pursuant to his mood, and becoming a follower of his mood. Okay, little help, Krishna Kumar.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you. So here, Kanaya Krishna Prabhu has a question. Prabhu, you can unmute and ask a question.
Thank you, Prabhu. Maharaj, Danvat Pranam, very nice class. Very, don't feel like stopping the class about Raghunath Das pastimes. Maharaj, one question. We have this 6 Goswami picture at the altar. I always get confused who is Raghunath Das there in the picture and all the Goswami there. Is it left to right or right to left? I don't know how to.
Well, it's not that the artists that made such paintings, plural, were consistent. One artist, the next artist, the next artist. They didn't necessarily put the sequence in some order. Now, there's a Sad Goswami Astaka, and there's some order in the Ashtaka, but it's not that the artist followed that same sequence. So there are 2 things I can recommend for you. One is those who are the youngest looking, they're likely to be Jiva Goswami and Raghunath Das, because they were the youngest amongst the 6 Goswamis. And then second is there are some artists that actually went to the trouble of either in Bengali or in Sanskrit putting their name. And then you can identify because they have the name connected with this image versus that image versus the other image. And other than that, I don't have anything to recommend because they didn't follow some law or some rule or something like that. They depicted in their own artistic, creative way what they might have looked like.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, one more question. Raghunath Dasa is known as the Prayojana Acharya. So, who is so there's a topmost, right, Maharaj?
Well, you can say topmost, but he's of the 3 Sambandha Abhideya Prayojana. It's not exactly topmost, but it's the ripened fruit or the final conclusion of the practice of bhakti. The practice of bhakti is abhideya.
Mm.
And that's I think where you're headed is. That's Rupa Goswami is the abhideya acharya. And the Sambandha acharya is Sanatana Goswami. Now, Sambandha acharya doesn't mean that Sanatana Goswami was the lowest and Raghunath Das was the highest. That's not what it means. That would be a mistake. It's not what it means. So, for example, here's a for example. There are many places where in Krishnadas Kaviraj writings, he not only got the blessings of Madan Mohan, but he speaks of Madan Mohan in a very confidential way. Not like more like Gopinath in the mood of how he speaks or writes about Madan Mohan. So, Sarup Damodar, Sanatana Goswami, in his worship of Madan Mohan, he wasn't just, the fundamental basics, and that's what he did. Read his writings, and it's very elevated, most elevated. And then his commentary on the Brihat Bhagavatamrita itself, and so forth and so on. But if there's any question of Sambandha, we go to, for example, Hari Bhakti Vilas, a book written by Sanatana Goswami, or compiled by him and Gopal Bhatta Goswami. So like that. And the writings and the mood and the activities of Raghunath Das were on the most elevated stage of intense love that he had for Radha and Krishna, and particularly Srimati Radharani. So it had to do with their mood more than their spiritual qualification, as if to say Sanatana Goswami was less spiritually qualified. That's a mistake.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. There is a question, Maharaj, on the from Zoom on the chat. Hare
Okay.
Krishna Maharaj, Dandvat Pranam. Thank you for taking us into the beautiful vision of the glories of Raghunath Das Goswami. He exemplified deep internal detachment and complete dependence on Krishna. In our day-to-day Grihastha life, while working, raising families, and practicing spiritual life, what does internal renunciation actually look like, and how can we cultivate it in a practical way?
It depends on your spiritual power or capacity. Both the instruction that Lord Chaitanya gave to Raghunath Das before he left family, and after he gave instruction to Raghunath Das after reaching Puri, both had the emphasis of internal cultivation of affinity and service mood towards Radha Krishna. So that you can take as an important principle as a grahastha that you can try to cultivate. Now, how do you try to cultivate? The same way that, sadhakas cultivate. And then as your capacity become purified and more matured, it can become even, deeper or more esoteric, etc., but according to your capacity and your spiritual elevation. And then back to this other topic of living simply, the renunciation part is not like we wear tattered cloth and walk around skinny, but keep it simple. So as a grahastha, you may have formal occasions where you have to have some kind of attire, and in general, how you keep yourself externally, keep it simple, according to your lifestyle, according to how your occupation and what you have to do in the association of others, etc. But respectable, but keep it simple. And that's on the outside, and then the inside is deepen your sense of love and attraction for Krishna or Radha and Krishna. And you know how to do that by the writings of our acharyas and the Srimad Bhagavatam. And you cultivate that internally in the course of your day-to-day life. It's day-to-day life means it's not going to happen with a snap of a fingers. But it's something that as you live your grihastha life going forward in time, then you'll feel that sense of affinity, and it comes out in your character, your personality, your speech, how you interact with others, what you find interest in when you have discretionary time. And their discretionary time gets quickly filled up with things that are enlivening and enriching spiritually. So gradually moving in that direction.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. You want to read what Uma just sent?
Yes.
Or she can unmute and she can say it herself. Uma, you want to unmute?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Maharaj, I have an unrelated question from a different part of Bhagavatam, a section of Bhagavatam. Is it okay to ask now?
How about you ask me later?
Okay.
There's a reason.
Yes.
The reason is I learned this from classes with the Chinese devotees. It's like a popcorn machine, they ask questions all over the place. So I have this rule, that is based on what Prabhupada said. If somebody starts asking unrelated questions, then what we just spent an hour and 15 minutes will be dissipated. And so the force and the effect will be different. It's lost. So how about this? As soon as we're done, we'll have a phone conversation. You can ask your question to your heart's content.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Divyatit Prabhu, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask question. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Another fantastic talk, very, very grateful. Maharaj, when you mentioned about these beautiful books written by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and our six Goswamis, certain times there is a desire to actually read the past times, but we often hear a person has to have a adhikar to actually dwell into this rasa, which one person may not be qualified, because it's very difficult to understand whether I am at that platform or whether I'm eligible to read and meditate on this leelas. So just wanted your opinion and thoughts on that one.
When in doubt, don't.
Hare Krishna.
But, at what point, because that's kind of what the question is. So, our transcendental literature, like, for example, Brihat Bhagavatamrita, is very far out. There are narrations in Brihat Bhagavatamrita that hold on to your socks because your socks are going to fall off because they're really elevated. So go through those. And for example, there's a devotee that just completed Srimad Bhagavatam and contemplating reading Chaitanya Charitamrita. There's so many amazing teachings within Chaitanya Charitamrita that we're not going to really understand either. But you read these fundamental, I would say, read these fundamental texts and be cautious about going outside that boundary. It's a little bit like Prabhupada's statement to the devotees in when he was in Bombay about bathing in Radhakund. It's fine to bathe in Radhakund for someone who is purified and elevated. But supposing you're not purified and elevated, supposing you're not, then what? You may make offense, even you're trying to not make offense. So better to err on the side of caution is that's my disposition. And there's plenty of nice things to read. And then when does the bell ring? When you're now qualified, when you have a deepening understanding of who is Lord Chaitanya and his Leela and his moods of love of Radha, because it's very explicit, but in both in the writings of Krishnadas Kaviraj and Prabhupada's purports. So when you have reached that stage, then and your mind is not bewildered or agitated, then that's a good sign. Then you can begin reading these other literatures. And then, as you put, meditating upon them, because otherwise it's easy to misunderstand.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Maybe if I add some more on that,
Sure.
in case someone finished Srimad Bhagavatam, and when I say finish, at least reading, I will put it that way, and finish Chaitanya Charitamrita, reading. And then Brihad Bhagavatamrita, like you said, this is such a beautiful literature to read again and again and again. Is it okay to read further books?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're asking the same question again, and my answer is the same answer. It's not just reading, like I punched the clock and so forth. It's where there's some understanding of what the author Krishnadas Kaviraj intends for the reader, you and me, to understand about who is Lord Chaitanya and his mood, and therefore his mission. And when you understand his mood and mission, you actually have some understanding, a palpable understanding of his mood and mission. You're ready. And then because what has been written about him is the highest. It doesn't get higher than the highest. It's Krishna himself in the mood of Radharani, experiencing love of Radharani in separation from Krishna. It doesn't get higher. So when there's an understanding, a deepening, we'll put it this way, a deepening appreciation, then go ahead. Now, there are there ISKCON devotees who are writing such books, writing about such books. And it's not like it's a no to become somewhat familiar with those other writings and so forth and so on. But to enter into the meditation upon what's being written, and there has to, as you indicated, it's the same thing. There's some eligibility, please.
Very beautiful. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Okay. And then to Shesh.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Danut Pranam Jai Shri Prabhupada. Maharaj, I just want to piggyback on that question from Tivitirtha Prabhuji. Is the qualification of the devotees one of the reasons for not discussing the pastimes of Srimati Radharani and Sri Krishna?
Let me share this with you, because you're asking the same question again, basically. This past Memorial Day weekend, many devotees probably went to Sadhusanga, and some of the rest of us went to Gitanagari, because it's something that I've been doing for 35, 36, 37 years, having a retreat in Gitanagari. And the co-speaker was Garuda Prabhu. And his book, he has written 2 books on Rasa Leela. Now, I asked him, and he kept, he reassured me don't worry, I'm not going to get too esoteric here. But there's a way to read these 5 chapters, Rasa Panchajaya, where it's not the unqualified person entering into waters where one can easily make offense. It's a way of approaching the subject matter with the right mood. So if you may want to hear those recordings of his speaking on this topic, so you can understand, where the guardrails are, the boundaries are, and you stay within those boundaries, and you're okay. And we had, there were newer people in that audience. You can hear the recordings, and he handled the topic very well. Plus, he has a great sense of humor. People were laughing a lot. He's very good. So read or hear what he has to say, and that helps you and may help you with the same question that was just previously asked.
Sure, Maharaj.
Okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. So it looks like we're done.
Yes, Maharaj.
So thank you all for being a participant in this very cold weather. It was supposed to be minus 12 and it's only minus 3.
Something on a positive note, yeah.
Yeah, on the positive note only.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay.
Thank you again so much, Maharaj, for your valuable time and in being with us. It would have
Maybe I'll
been
come at a time of the year that it's nice and warm. That will be nice.
Yes, Maharaj, that will be wonderful. It's always a pleasure to, wonderful association with you, and you enlighten us. Regardless, we are online or in presence, but really very grateful for your association. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
In the Prabhupada ki.
Yeah.
Jai.
Visualize Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam. Thank you.
Govinda.